I'm ready.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to Story Players Podcast. I am your host, Winston Powell, and I am joined, as always, by my good friend and co-host, Zachary Snader. How are you doing, Zachary?
Hello, Winston Powell. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for asking. Yes, it is a
listeners can't see because
day.
they're listeners, but Zach is looking fresh as heck right now. He's got a new haircut. And
It'll come out in the audio.
Intimidated.
It'll come out in the audio.
Yeah. Well, what won't show up in the audio is like your beard whiskers ruffling on the microphone, like it's been common recently in my editing. No, that's not true.
No, I need to. I'll make sure that my beard never exceeds microphone length. So don't you worry. I'll make the editing easy.
Yeah, fashion by like podcast setup.
Yes,
for the
podcasters are ruling the fashion world right now.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Whenever I take my headphones off, I have like an earmuff like imprint in my hair that I have to ruffle out. So that's my fashion statement.
But you've got naturally ruffly hair.
I try to keep it kind of like
rambunctious.
just tussled to just organic looking.
Organic. Yes, you have very organic.
I don't know.
Hair.
I wonder if any listeners have seen me because I don't really show up face to face online ever. Maybe someday that'll happen.
Yeah, you keep a pretty low profile, all things considered.
I didn't try to. It just turned out that acorns were easier to like make profile images out of, and characters that I've created and stuff. But there is a picture of me out there. I might be more like face to face if I like get more into YouTube, or we're probably gonna try to do that episode where we do Kane and Lynch. Maybe we'll have a camera for that.
It is easier to be an acorn than it is to be a person, I would imagine.
That's true. True that.
I actually, I probably should have said this during the pre-show. We kind of saved a squirrel yesterday.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a cool story. Let's talk about that.
There was a hawk, like a freaking hawk, a huge hawk, touched down in our backyard. Like it just perched up on our fence. And we have squirrels and birds in our trees. So we were like, oh, okay, this thing is definitely hunting, right? So the hawk is just hanging out for a while. And then we see these squirrels running across our yard. And the hawk just goes down and it wraps its talons around a baby squirrel. It doesn't take the squirrel and just like run away. It just kind of crushes the baby squirrel a little bit. Oh. So the baby squirrel was with its mama squirrel and it like kind of hid behind this bush, and the hawk just like went back to its perch and now it's looking at the squirrel. We were just like in shock, like, holy crap, that just happened. So the mama squirrel ran up to the tree and the hawk was just chilling out. So we're like, okay, we got to save this little baby squirrel. So we run out. I threw like a Topo Chico at it, just like a can, not at the bird, but in its direction, so it would kind of move away,
just to scare it away.
Yeah, and then threw a rock when it was on the fence, and had it fly away. But the thing kept circling around our backyard, so we were like, "Oh crap! Like, what the heck are we gonna do?" Because this baby squirrel was struggling so hard. So anyway, like I picked it up and I brought it close to the mama. And then the mama squirrel, like, the baby squirrel tried to climb up the tree, but it couldn't. So the mama squirrel took it in its mouth and, like, climbed all the way to the top of the tree where they have their little nest. And, they made it safe. So we left, like, some nuts and stuff out. But, we were keeping an eye out to make sure the hawk didn't come back. And I think they're safe now.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
And now the hawk's children will starve.
Yeah. That was probably too long of a story about saving a squirrel, but yeah, no,
that's okay.
Really
yeah,
cool.
For a video game podcast?
Yeah.
No, it's very touching.
Definitely. I got to hold little baby squirrel in my hands. It was super cute.
We've been living out in the woods. Like my family has had squirrels, like, cause a dog might get a hold of a squirrel or something and they don't want to just kill it or eat it. So it just kind of roughs it up and then we have to rescue it. And my dad's made like squirrel houses and stuff and chipmunk houses.
Dude, if he has any designs, can you please ask your dad for some squirrel house designs? Because now I really want to make one.
I think he just whipped it up. Like he just made it up, and it had like a window, like a plexiglass window with a branch in there and
What the
stuff that they could
heck?
climb
Oh
on.
man, your dad sounds like such a cool
He's
dad.
crafty. He's like just the other day, honestly, just yesterday, he sent me a video of he was cutting up wood outside, like a big tree, and yeah, this is a video game podcast, but he a little like field mouse was in the wood, and he was just frozen in terror because his
Oh,
house was being destroyed by a chainsaw, and my dad just picked him up. I was like, "Hey, what's up, little guy? Get out of here! Get out of here!" And like, it's just funny that my dad is this big, like, you know, he's got like baseball gloves for hands. He's picking up this cute little mouse and just like putting it off in the corner of the field just to like, I don't know, just it's very endearing. And yeah, and you're rescuing the squirrel, also very endearing. But yeah, that's weird that the hawk didn't just grab it and run away with it. I wonder if it's kind of was like, oh, that's baby. I can't eat the baby. I should be going after the mom.
I think it was
wonder
just
if
messing
like,
with its prey a little bit.
you think
But
it was
yeah,
antagonistic?
Yeah, I think it was actually being kind of a jerk.
Huh. I guess predators tend to take on that hat in like
In
our
life, in
impression
general.
of them is just they're jerks. Yeah. But at the same time, they're trying to feed their babies and stuff. So it's just circle of life.
I suppose so.
But yeah, little baby squirrel, I'm sure, is very happy now in the safety of the tree.
Tangentially, your dad does sound like a cool dude, and I really want to meet him sometime. I bet Thanksgiving at your house would be so fun.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
like,
He goes all out with food and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loves
Yeah,
cooking.
I can see it.
I've been so well fed here because he just loves cooking.
Mm.
I wonder, like, I kind of
fly
forgot,
out.
like, what'd you say?
We're going to fly out.
You want to come out here?
Yeah, whenever we can afford it, we're going to come out.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, come out. It's nice. Honestly, like, really nice in New England, especially, like, October if you wanted to come. I mean, maybe it's a little soon, but next year, October.
I'm so curious to see, like, what, we've been in, like, Colorado mountain towns and stuff for, like, a day at a time. But actually spending more than one day out there and just being, like, getting kind of absorbed in that vibe, I feel like would be really cool.
Yeah.
Because I've never had that in my entire life.
Yeah, I always recommend like at least a couple weeks if you're going to go somewhere, just to kind of immerse yourself and get into a routine and just kind of feel what it's like to live there.
Yeah.
So anyway, why
this
don't we
is a
talk about video
game
games?
podcast.
Damn, I don't know if that's going to be bonus content or should I reintroduce the podcast or what? No, we'll keep it rolling. This is all good stuff.
All right.
All right. Do you have a topic? Because I have one prepared.
I do have one.
Cool. How much confidence do you have?
I don't know. I don't know.
All right. Well, let me start then.
Okay. Well, I don't know. It's up to you. Do you
I'm
think
ready to go.
you should anchor, or do you think we should kind of start with mine, sort of like how we did the Concord thing?
Let's do mine.
All right.
Because I'm ready.
Okay.
I actually don't know how long this is going to take. I thought of an interesting thing just because I wanted to kind of take a little deep dive into our past because I think it'd be interesting to talk about this. Because we're older now, and there's no two ways about it. We're old now. You're a dad, and I'm 30 in my 30s. And I thought it'd be interesting because a lot of like younger people, I'm sure, I'm like crossing my fingers, will be listening to the podcast, and it got me thinking like, you know what? We have experiences with games from our childhood that no one can even comprehend, right? Like our first video game console and the leading up to the next video game console and watching the evolution of this stuff. Like a lot of kids now, they know PlayStation 4 maybe, and then PlayStation 5. And so I think it'd be cool to go back in time and just ask about like the lead up maybe and kind of our mindset and our just the way we like what we were thinking back before we got our first console or first gaming console. And then after that, like the subsequent consoles that we kept getting and just our experiences with that. So I guess I'll start with you and just ask what your first console was and why you were getting that console and like what your whole like what you thought about it and everything, your experience with it. Just quick. I don't want to. I feel like this is a full episode topic, but we can like go quickly through it.
No, for sure. It's funny. So there was like Denver Startup Week happened this past week, and I went to this event that was kind of games oriented, and ended up in a conversation with someone who asked me not the first game I played, but the first game I fell in love with. I thought that was a really cool question because I really had to think about that. I'll come back to that because the first console I received was I don't know if it was really gifted so much as my dad got one. possibly for
Yeah.
himself. I don't really know. Maybe he
Yeah,
got it
mine's
for
the
us.
same. I have a similar story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a Super Nintendo though, and I think I've mentioned this
Cool.
before, maybe, but yeah, the first video game I remember playing was Super Mario Kart for the SNES. Um,
Okay. Cool.
but my dad and my mom split not long after that memory, if I recall, and that console went with us to my my grandparents' house on my dad's side. Uh, I mean, I still live with my mom sometimes, whatever. Like they were splitting custody. But when I was at my grandparents' house on my dad's side, they had the console there, and
Mm-hmm.
I played so much Super Nintendo at their house. I probably
Cool.
played hundreds of hours of Super Mario World, the first one,
Mm-hmm.
and Battletoads, and I distinctly remember those two games.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think we played Dr. Mario also, like the Tetris one, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think I spent as much time with NES, but I have a similar like origin as well, where my dad just bought it because he was like in his 20s when I was
Hmm.
younger. Yeah, and so I think our parents were just like, "Here's a cool new toy. Let's just check it out. I'm curious about technology right now."
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is like it's
totally.
funny to think my dad being interested in a game console and then like steeply dropping off when
That's
I got
exactly
into
what happened with
games
my dad.
probably. Yeah.
Like I could beat him in Super Mario Kart when I was like 5.
Hmm.
Not, I mean, look, I'm not
We
some
just
capital G
discouraged our
gamer,
parents.
but yeah, probably.
No.
Dude, anytime we played, we ended up getting like an N64 and a PlayStation. And I
Mm.
also remember we would play Madden football together, and I would beat the ever loving shit out of him. It was incredible. I would just it'd be
You
like,
make it sound like you're like rubbing it in his face and stuff and
I
like
mean, not
mooning him and
intentionally,
stuff.
but dude, it was so great to crush my father's ego at such a young age. It
Wow.
felt incredible because he was so confident,
Easy.
and I would just
Yeah.
destroy him. I just have Randy
Yeah.
Moss run go patterns, and like he wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so I think
That's
that's why
funny.
he
I
maybe stopped playing with me. It's because I beat him
I
at
just
everything.
played. Well, you played like competitive. I think I just played Mario with my dad. Like we'd play a
Mm.
level or two, just for fun. I don't think I ever got past the first like sewer level or whatever. Like that first level, I think we spent most of our time just like replaying that level over and over again. Because
That's pretty
I
cool.
was probably like 2 or 3 or something. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I remember we had a whole collection of games though. I remember we had Duck Hunt with the like the little laser gun thing.
Nice. Yeah.
Because back then we had these TVs. I don't know about you youngsters, but if you know about these, but we had these like fish tank TVs, the analog TVs with like the
Yeah.
glass, the glass screen and this kind of rounded. Um, it's funny to think of like someone who's only grown up around flat panels, thinking about these old like tube TVs that you actually there's no remote control. You have to go up and turn the knob to channel 3 to get the system to actually to register
Yeah.
to be on the right input. And like I don't know how if you've had this experience, but like I remember because I was right up next to the screen playing Duck Hunt, like just cheating, with the Raycaster
Mhm.
gun or whatever. And the TV let off like a weird static. Do you remember that? Like if you touched it, it would kind of have a static to it.
Oh yeah, dude, because it was
Isn't that weird?
the thing
It was like weird
probably wasn't
ions being
safe.
shot at the
Yeah.
screen. No, yeah, and I remember it having like a smell as well, like this weird ozone smell or something. Like I distinctly remember all these weird things about the TV. Like our brains are totally fried from being that close to the TV. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to think of how our generation is like the bridge between old technology and new technology. Because
Yeah,
we
I mean,
grew up
we
like
lived through the whole
had
arc.
fax machines, had
Dial-up
modems
internet.
that you
Yeah.
had to like unplug your fax machine or whatever, right? Dial up, all that. I don't know if we had a rotary phone, but we for sure had like one of those phones that was attached to the wall and you had to touch the button.
With a big long cable.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So like our
Yeah.
parents were like with big frizzy hair walking through the house with these long ass
Mhm.
curly like phone cords like
Dude.
following them.
Yeah. And then we've grown up to see the new technologies that have made everything that we grew up with feel like not just obsolete, but feel like it existed 1,000 years ago. You know?
Yeah, I mean when you stop and think like how archaic it sounds to explain these things. That's why I thought it would be fun to dive back and just like because I know a lot of listeners,
Just
their entry to games
old
was
men
PS3.
reminiscing and yelling at clouds. I don't
Right.
mind.
Well,
I
I
don't mind
mean, I'm
doing
not
that.
mad about it or anything, but it's just kind of funny to think like, yeah, we didn't have remote controls back then. Everything was wired.
Hmm.
Like, it was totally like the birth of video games back then. And we were kind of, I don't remember it that well because my most distinct memory started a little later when I actually got my own console. Because I think we sold my SNES in a tag sale along with all the games, unfortunately, because I'm sure
Yep.
there was some little collector's items in there. But my first console, when the PS2 was already out, I didn't have one, and I was always like flipping through magazines, looking at like, oh, cool game. If I had a PS2, I could get that. Oh, I could get that. And so in my excitement for PS2, I ended up just like convincing my friend to sell me his PS1 because we had played at his house all the time. And so my first console that I owned was this PS1. I think I paid like a lot of money for it. I don't want to put a number on it, but I remember it was like my dad was like, "Are you sure that's worth it?" And I was like, "I don't know. It was whatever. It was like $200 or something. He sold it to me for. Maybe it was a good deal. I can't remember."
That was a lot of money back in the old money days. When
I
money
can't
was...
really say if that was the amount of money. It could have been even more
Yeah.
actually. I don't know. I don't remember what it was. But yeah, he had like we played all the time the PS1 at his place. Like we'd have sleepovers, we'd play like all these cool games, and eventually it all rolled over to me, and so I had all the games because I just bought the thing with all the games, and so I played that for I don't know for quite a while. That was my first like exposure really. Even though the PS2 was already out, I was sinking my teeth into these like crunchy retro. Like, I guess I had.
You were already a retro gamer.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it was a generation behind. But we had Crash Bandicoot. I really liked. I remember I had a Dino Crisis, which came with a Resident Evil 3 Nemesis demo that I played a lot of.
Cool.
Which I loved. I just played through the demo a bunch of times because it had cool sound effects of like the zombies moaning in the background and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and my parents made up in the back room. They made up like a game room for us, like a pad to hang out in.
Nice.
And so we had a TV with a VHS built in, and so we'd watch Gladiator on VHS and play PS1 and do all these cool things. And yeah, a lot of like my biggest memories of the PS1 was just sleepover memories. Like we played a lot just during sleepovers. That was a lot of fun.
A lot of what?
Just we played PS1 all night.
Oh, okay.
Like we played.
Yeah.
I think we played 3D Frogger, and there was like a 3D Pong
3D
game.
Frogger was solid. I was actually thinking about that the other day.
No way.
How good? Yeah, because I was. I'm reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and it's kind of like Ready Player One, except without smashing you over the head with it. But they do like touch on nostalgia, and I think Frogger came up at some point.
Oh really?
Yeah, in the book.
That's funny because at that point I hadn't played Frogger. I just I wasn't like, oh, the new Frogger.
You never
I was
played,
just like, what's this weird thing, Frogger?
Frogger was an arcade game, right? Am I tripping?
Yeah. Well, I think it was either SNES or no, it was probably for Atari. Honestly,
Yeah.
it must have been one of those Atari games.
Oh man,
But like I never played it until like cell phones had games on them. That was
yeah.
Right. And so
Yeah,
my
dude, that's...
first impression was the 3D platformer Frogger.
It's interesting that a PS1 was your first, like, I guess, proper console where you played a lot of games, right? Being
Twisted
30?
Metal.
Yeah.
What else would I have? I mean, I must have played. Oh, I had Grand Theft Auto 1 on there. That was pretty cool.
Right.
Trying to remember like what I really had.
Yeah, the top-down GTAs.
I didn't. Yeah, they're good ones. I think they're fun. Those are good ones. There are a lot of satisfying like maneuvers you can do with the cars and stuff in there.
Yeah, I had a pretty... Well, I don't know if I had a typical or atypical progression. Because I went SNES to PC to N64 to PS1 to PS2. I never owned an Xbox, but my friends did. So yeah, PS2, PS3, PS4, and I've not gotten a console since then. But yeah, the person who asked me what the first game that I fell in love with was, I think like maybe Super Mario World, maybe Battletoads, but I think like really, really fell in love with was StarCraft.
On the PC.
Yeah, I played online. It was the first time that I played an online game. I'm pretty sure that's true. That was the first online game I ever played was StarCraft with Battle.net back in '98. I'm pretty sure, or 99, whatever it
Dang.
was.
I don't think I even knew how to work the internet back then. All my PC, because you said you were wondering if it was an atypical progression, because I think I had the PS1, but I think before then I was on my mom's computer through that entire time, even after PS1, and I had a PS2, I was still on the computer. But like online stuff was too confusing, and so I stuck to single player stuff.
Yeah. My mom had to have internet in our home because she was a real estate agent, so she had to download pictures and print them for her listings. But
Cool.
it would do the whole scan line, like like that whole thing.
Yeah.
So it'd take her forever to do that. So we had to have like as good of internet as possible because she had to print a whole bunch of those. So
Nice.
our
So you could play
connection, like
StarCraft,
as
no
far
problem.
as dial-up went, we had a pretty, I think it was like 64K, whatever it was, right? It was pretty
That's
solid.
kilobytes for you kids at home.
Yeah, right. So it was good enough to mostly reliably play StarCraft, which is about as good as you could have hoped to be a kid in the suburbs. I mean, we lived in the freaking desert, like actually in the desert.
hmm
So it was
No, that's
pretty
good
solid,
for
all
back in
things
the day.
considered. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that got
And
me
that was
into
dial up.
like
That was
using the internet and modding games. And
wow.
that was a really big gateway for me.
Wait, was that? You mean modding games? Like, did you make maps for StarCraft or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah.
That's awesome because like I have a similar experience with Age of Empires when I was playing Age of Empires 2 and 3 when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I was totally into map making,
Yes.
like because they have an editor, and I wonder how many game developers like kind of got that first little taste of game development by cracking into those and making their own little silly levels and stuff for their friends. Because I'd make like challenge maps for my friend because he was great. He was like the smart kid, and he introduced me to Age of Empires in the first place.
Oh, okay.
And so I would make these stupid like mazes and stuff for him. So I made this like big forest maze with enemies all throughout the maze. It was like a labyrinth.
Yeah.
And I was like, here, now you try to get through this. And I gave him like 2 peasants or whatever. And he was like, yeah, sure. And he just started chopping his way through the maze. And I was like, wait a minute, no.
Nice.
But yeah, that's awesome. And StarCraft had a similar thing, right? Like a lot of the RTSs you could make your own stuff for.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I was listening to the AIS Game Maker's Notebook interview with the developer of RimWorld. I forget exactly what his name is. But he was talking about how he basically got his start in game development making Unreal tournament mods. And then his first design job was at Irrational working on BioShock.
Nice.
And I feel like I don't know, obviously not for everyone, but for a lot of people, like I mean, even id, when they were hiring some of their early development team, like they hired developers that made Doom wads,
Man,
like it was the
I wish I
easiest
knew
way to
that.
show your bona fides.
I wish I knew that because I used to make Counter-Strike maps all the time.
Yeah.
And I never thought of it as like a career path, but I'd made some sick maps. Well,
Yeah,
like cool
sick for
deathmatch maps.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I used to do that. I think that was a little later on though in the timeline when I was in high
I mean,
school.
the thing is, like, for a lot of people that did, because I did mods. The last time I was like kind of serious in modding, I was doing Fallout 3 mods, which got me interested in taking game design more seriously as an area of study. But yeah, dude, before then, like I'd been making games and little mods and art and whatever pretty much my entire life. But as soon as I got into college, I kind of stopped doing that, which if anyone is interested in advice, don't do that. Just if you keep doing mods and stuff, like that's all that people really need to see in order to verify that you can do the thing.
Yeah, like
is having
deliver a
proof.
product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I have a whole opinion about just college in general. Just
Oh,
like
yeah,
in this day and age, in this industry.
let's do a whole,
We both have
episode on
a-
games education.
Yeah. I think like the general like broad strokes kind of blanket statement could just be like just do it
Yeah.
on your own computer and just show off your work online, and then that's proof of like know-how.
Oh,
And even if it's modding,
we could get into a big diatribe here. Buddy.
that's a whole topic anyway.
Yeah.
But let's continue on the timeline though. So after you got you had your N64. After you had your Super NES, you had your N64. You said you were also playing on the PC.
I think we went
what were the-
SNES to PC, and then the N64 came after.
Okay.
Yeah, because I I remember having the PC before getting an N64, and I got an N64. I think my mom got it for us because I went to a friend's place and we played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Uh,
Hmm.
One of the most formative days in my entire life without me even realizing it. Because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater has had such an influence on my life in terms of the culture I fell into as a kid, the music I listened to, the type of people I hung out with, the type of people
Oh
I
yeah.
didn't really like, um, all
So you hung
that.
out with the misfits and the
Yeah,
skater
yeah,
dudes.
I was for sure in the Misfits and Outcasts kind of kind of cohort, I suppose. But yeah, man, had an N64, played the hell out of that thing. I have two little brothers, and at that time, I also had two stepbrothers. None of us really liked them very much because they were kind of jerks, but we did play
Mm.
video games together sometimes. So there was five of us, and WrestleMania 64 could support four players, and we played
Hmm.
that and Mario Party, and we would like kind of rotate in and out.
Those are such, because I had a friend with an X64 as well, and he had Tony Hawk and he had wrestling games, and it was such a like a '90s thing. Like that was such a big like that punk culture, that kind of like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know butt metal like punk culture sort
Yeah.
of thing. It was kind of permeated in the games my friends would play because I never had an N64 myself, but we'd go and play like I don't know Downtown Rush or something I think it's called, or Uptown. It's like that one with that we can play in a VW Bug or whatever is
I'm
N64.
I'm not sure.
Can't remember what it's called, but it has that attitude where it's like, it's the early 2000s. It's got this weird like kind of I don't know. The early 2000s vibe is kind of like a dingy
Yeah,
time for
yeah,
me.
yeah, for sure. Just
Like
throw an
my
extra
impression of that time
two
period.
X's in things
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
exactly. Oh yeah,
make it all look like
BMX
one of
and stuff.
those soda cups with the blue and purple lines going across, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the if you ever look at, I mean, it's funny nowadays you're seeing that trend, that visual art trend come back, which is disgusting. It's all that like bubbly, roundy, like all the tech is kind of bulbous and round, and there's like low cut jeans and acid wash and dyed hair and like studded belts. It's just like, like Avril Lavigne sort of stuff.
yeah,
And
Avril
I don't
Lavigne,
know
but
why,
now.
but people are interested in bringing that back. I guess maybe like, I don't know. There's nostalgia for everything, but I'm more of a 90s boy, so I definitely was happy to leave the early 2000s behind.
I
And
mean,
yeah, a lot of the games of that era reflected that
it was a
that
cool
like
moment
vibe.
in history. Like it felt kind of hopeful, you know? Pretty much
Oh,
up
like kind of like a
until
future looking, yeah, like a futuristic.
yeah, yeah, like the world was progressing. I mean, I know there was still hardship in the world because of course, but things were progressing in a pretty positive direction. Like globalization was happening, trade was free and flowing, people were just
Hmm.
enjoying life and figuring out, what entertainment was and like what integration of cultures was. And then 9/11
Hmm.
happened and then it's like, "Oh, okay, well, they're now the future
Interesting.
has changed forever, right?"
Yeah, I guess I never thought about that because that was right there on the turn of the century. Like that was 2001, and so yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that
a weird way to
was
kick off your century.
yeah, cuz the when did the PlayStation 2 come out? Let's see. March 4th, 2000. Yeah.
2000. Okay.
Yeah, and then the Xbox came out shortly after, like later that year,
Hmm.
I think.
Yep.
So yeah, dude, we had
The Halo machine.
like people. I don't know. I feel like maybe that's part of why our generation latched on so hard to games is
Mm.
not
Yeah, it
just
could be.
because they were accessible, but because like, dude, I think we needed games in our lives
We need like
to.
a little escapism. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. It's not like we understood the gravity of how the world changed when you're in fifth or sixth grade or whatever,
Mm.
or even like in middle
I
school.
mean, it
You
could have
know,
been like signaling the cultural push towards. I mean, games are just fun, so they're inherently marketable. But it could have been like that, cultural push to find different avenues of escapism, or just promote things that are idealistic and optimistic. Like technology for video games was transforming so quickly already, especially because like there was already a big boom for the SNES, and to see the progression from that to PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2, you're like, wow, this stuff is it's moving in such a good direction so quick, and so you can see people just gravitating towards that because it's such a like
yeah,
it's such a nice place to put your eggs, like a nice basket to put your eggs in, because there's optimism there, there's a future there, whereas like
yeah.
other parts of the world might have felt a little more um, pessimistic,
Yeah, for sure.
especially in that time.
There was this like huge rise in American jingoism at that time as well, because it's like, oh, go kill everyone in the Middle East. Like that was, you'd have not the Star Spangled Banner, the God Bless America sung at every single
Mm.
baseball and football game for like 4 or 5 years or whatever, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and this rise in this nationalized patriotism, I think was, I, it didn't sell me, and a lot of other people that I know. It's just like, okay, like, yeah, cool. What the fuck are we doing? We're bombing this country? Like, what? And I think there was a rejection against like just getting sucked into that whole wave of patriotic tide. And
Hmm.
there was other ways to escape, like sports and books and whatever, but like games were at this moment where they were becoming more and more part of the culture. And not just that, but
Hmm.
like something you could talk about and start to play online a lot more easily as well. And
Yeah.
it
And
gave
you could be
people a
more of like a
connection
cultural
point.
rebel.
Yeah.
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 I think when you're talking about like the sports and the anthems and stuff, like I think in that era you were dealing with a lot of older folks from a period where patriotism was huge
Mm.
and America was the greatest country and all this other things. And so us kind of seeing, because we saw the news, we watched the news and we saw what was going on, and like seeing that type of allegiance, that kind of blind allegiance with no caveats, like just kind of trusting things. It's just like we don't go to parades and that are all like star spangled and like people are wearing those little like hay hats and their suspenders and
Hmm.
stuff and confetti. Like that was fun for that era, and we're on the next generation from that, because our parents, they didn't
Yeah.
know that stuff really.
Yeah.
And since those people were kind of leaving the zeitgeist, or were totally removed from pop culture, we saw more of like a rebellious sort of like,
Mhm.
yeah, gamers. And you can kind of see that in culture at the time, like in movies like Hackers and stuff. Like it has this weird like underground vibe to it, and I think that appealed to a lot of youth at the time.
Yeah.
And that kind of made it, unfortunately that kind of flavored video game culture in a weird way, like in that time period as well, because back when I was watching G4 and E3 and like coverage of games,
Yeah.
and the Game Awards back then, it was like it was so cringy, like it was so counterculture and like, yeah, babes, hot babes and boobs and like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
beer
Yeah.
and
Yeah. For sure.
oh, look at that, like it was like the Jackass kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I have this distinct memory of showing my dad. I was like, oh, they're gonna have Game Awards. Let's watch the game. I like video games. You should watch it with me, and maybe you'll see why I like it. And it was just immediately they had what was Jack Black's band there? Tenacious
Tenacious
D
D.
came up on the stage wearing diapers, and there's fireworks, and there was like what was that? Blood Rain, the character from Blood Rain, who's just
Yeah.
like this naked
The
woman with swords.
Vampire lady.
She
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like in the crowd, like cheering on and like flashing the crowd. And I was like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't watch this with my dad. Maybe I am embarrassed of video games. That was like prime PS2 era that I was
Yeah.
talking about. That
Gosh,
was
the
kind
PS2
of like,
era. That was a good era in video games though. Like it was so bombastic, It wasn't that the PS2 era was like holding on to the last vestiges of that like late 90s, that late 90s kind of vibe. It was taking the torch and running with it, like at
It was
full
going head
speed
first.
while snorting
Yeah.
cocaine at 1,000 miles an
yeah.
hour.
Because at that point, you get like games in the news now. Like
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto was all up in the news, Manhunt's in the news.
I mean, the game launches.
The conversation around video game
you could still go to
violence.
midnight launches for even
Midnight
like
launches.
Halo, but then like for Madden and for Call of Duty, and there would be lines around the block, and like that was just
Oh,
such
man.
a unique moment in time where games just had this bigness to them and this significance that felt. I don't know if like maybe kind of singular, but like this it created this invitation for people who thought that was cool to be a part of that community. And there was a real cohesion there that was still kind of counterculture despite how big these things felt. And as games as an industry grew over time, that almost became like an expectation rather than something that would like surprise and celebrate the players of these audiences. Because now it's like we're in the TikTok era where you have to find a way to separate yourself, so everyone's trying really big things. And that's not to say that's not cool or anything. It's just like not everyone knew how to do that back in the day. So they were trying all kinds of weird shit, you know?
Mm.
And that was a really special and unique moment in the history of games.
Yeah. I loved, like, the reason why I'm so nostalgic for specifically PS2 era is because it was kind of, I would say this crept into the PS3 era as well, where games were kind of their own thing. Like, developers would just push their own ideas out. PS1 even more so because it was even earlier. People were just basically making indie games all the time.
Mm.
But I love PS2 because you get these high production, like ridiculous, off the wall experiences that are just so unique and specific to their like vision. And you get all kinds of it goes through the gambit of genres and everything, and just such high production value and all that stuff. And I think that is unique to that era of games. Whereas like as we creep further and further from that, we get into more like tactical game releases and trend following and kind of in a way losing that connection to making your own mold and instead trying to just using the molds that are already there to make games and just be like getting further and further away from like unique, interesting experiences. And I feel like I guess a lot of the reason why a lot of games nowadays are like remasters, remakes is because of that. Because we still haven't really found like there's no way to market new ideas anymore. It's tougher and tougher to market new ideas, even as individuals, like you said, like the TikTok era. Like just marketing yourself, it's like
Yeah,
like big whoop, like you're just another like creator, whatever. There's billions of you,
for sure.
and so it's safer just to kind of find a trend and stick to that. So there's something beautiful about that era to me, where people could just be their own thing, and you get these like bold-faced games that come out and they're flawed as heck, but you know they're more loved and endearing for the flaws. Like anyone who's a fan of like the Silent Hill series can tell you, like there's stuff in there that's just totally unacceptable, or like you know, and Grand Theft Auto and Manhunt as well. Like those are crazy, and those are trying to be kind of off the wall, wacky anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something so endearing about just the genuineness of games being released then, and yeah, I loved it. I love that stuff. The PS2
Yeah.
era.
Yeah, I do feel like a lot of that carried into the PS3 as well, because the PS3 and Xbox 360, right? Those consoles, man, it's hard to say if there has ever been a greater. I mean, I guess 2D to 3D was pretty big, right? But
Yeah.
I don't know if there's been a greater leap in the breadth of experiences that were enabled by way of the jump from the PS2 and Xbox era into the PS3 and Xbox 360 era. Because it didn't unlock just like prettier games. It was like, oh, we can actually do this entire new kind of genre now because the technology allows for that. Like a game like Elden Ring. I mean, you could have something akin to that on. Did Dark Souls come out for the PS3? Yeah, it did, right? Yeah, like
PS3.
the original Demon Souls. Demon Souls came out for the PS3. Demon Souls for the PS2 would not have been anything even close to the same game. It would have been closer to the Bloodborne demake that you see on the PS Bloodborne demake, right?
Sure,
Where
like
it's
more of a linear thing.
yeah, it's almost like it's a linear like Resident Evil, Silent Hill kind of thing, where you're just sort of like walking through a representation of what this level might be, not like some vast open world RPG. And in the PS3 era, you had PS3, Xbox 360, you had Gears of War, which kind of reinvented what shooters could be. You had Red Dead Redemption, kind of reinventing what RPGs, as they are, RPGs could be. And the PC was keeping up with that as well, right? And like Steam was gaining prominence, so you had all these new ways for people to play games. Like Xbox Live Arcade was coming out around then.
Yeah, getting
PlayStation
more
opened up
stuff.
their online store. Yeah, like just all the new kinds of experiences that we could engage with just opened the doors
It's funny
for games.
It's funny that I totally agree on all those points, but I remember thinking like when I was in it that the leap wasn't as big as all that, because there's so many PS3, I wouldn't say the PS3 exclusives, but the PS3 multi-platform like games that I played, or sorry, the multi-platform games that I played in the PS3 era, like Call of Duty and stuff like that. I didn't see a jump as much as I was like really caught up on like how gross the games were. Like multi-platform games were so ugly in a lot of cases. Or maybe not just multi-platform, but maybe there's some exclusive games. But like that was the era of like the like green brown filter on all the games, like trying to be cinematic and like sub 20 frames per second experiences. And I mean, I stuck to mostly exclusives on my PS3 when I played. I had like MotorStorm, Uncharted, Warhawk. Oh my god, I love Warhawk so much. You know, and I had the PSN games. I had I can't remember what they're called, but you know, Flower and Flow, and
Sound Shapes,
and Journey and Sound Shapes. I don't think I had Sound Shapes.
Sound Shapes is so good. There was no, not Human Fall Flat. Pain. Yeah, the one where you like launched human.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you launch a guy who's in a shopping cart or something. Is that it?
Yeah.
Or was it just you launched him out of a cannon?
Yeah, one of those.
That game feels Nintendo 64. That Pain
for sure.
Like if you go back and look, at like the artwork of it, it totally looks like that. Like oh yeah, you know, Misfits, sort of like 90s.
Yep.
Like a Jackass
it's
sort of.
XX Extreme.
I think it is probably a tribute to Jackass
like,
or something, right?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, there was also Braid and Super Meat Boy.
A lot of great games coming out of Xbox Live for sure in that time.
I
think that was sort of like a big trendsetter for like what indie game, like really exposing people to what indie games were. Whereas like garage games type game productions wasn't really seen at all. You know, like we were still kind of coming off of all these AAA giants, and then finally there's like a lens or like a light turn towards the indies because we have a platform finally. Or they did. I wasn't part of that. And yeah, we got a lot of cool studios born from that, and just a lot of cool experiences. And yeah, I love that. When I had my PS3, no one else had a PS3 because it was too expensive for everyone else. I actually sold my 4-wheeler that I just stopped driving it, I guess. And I sold it to a friend of mine, and with the money I bought a flat screen, a PS3, and I say flat screen. It was a flat screen, but it was like the chunky.
Oh yeah, like one of those old shitty Vizios or something.
No, it was full HD. It was called Westinghouse. It was a brand called Westinghouse. My mom was like, "That's a good brand." I was like, "Oh, cool, okay." And it was a great TV. I kept it all the way through college and everything, but it's just a little chunkier. And I got Resistance: Fall of Man.
Yeah.
Storm. And I was just like, I love those games, and I still think those games are great. But like, something that occurred to me a little later in life was like I was totally separated culturally from my friends because I had a PS3 in high school, whereas they had Xboxes and Wiis.
Dude, 100%. We also had a Wii, so we played hella Wii Sports and all that, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But I also did not have an Xbox 360, and that was arguably the greatest era in Xbox's history, if not one of the best runs of any console or gaming machine of all time.
I don't know if
the Xbox 360 line. I would absolutely put it in like a top 3, hands down.
I think PS2, PS1, but I actually don't have a lot of experience with Xbox. Well,
PS2 Xbox is pretty solid too. 360.
You're talking about 360?
360, man. I remember like my friends all had 360s, so I would always go to their places to play 360 games.
I think I'm just bitter because of the whole experience. But yeah, I mean, thinking about it, that you had Gears of War. I don't remember if what was that BioWare game? Oh, Mass Effect.
Oh, Mass Effect. Right, yeah. BioShock.
Was that exclusive? I can't remember.
Mass
Effect. Of course, Halo.
I don't know. Was it?
I don't know. Well, Halo. I'm just trying to think of like Xbox exclusives.
Halo definitely.
That's the thing, though. Like, I mean, I'm sure this has been said a million times, but like, I was already on the PlayStation train, so I was getting PS1, PS2, PS3 anyway. But looking inward from the outside, like Xbox had Halo and Gears of War, and I couldn't, and Xbox Live games like Castle Crashers, and I couldn't like see it. I just didn't see it. Like, what is it? Like, I think Halo's fun and stuff, but back then I was just like, I just don't see what it is that is selling the system to so many people when they could have a PS3 and be playing Killzone 2 online with me or Killzone 3
as a fellow Killzone and Uncharted online player. I
Yeah.
can tell you those experiences were nowhere near as robust as like Gears or Halo Online. You
I
know?
don't. I guess so. Yeah. No, I don't. I mean, the online service was just kind of dominated since Xbox on the
Yeah.
Xbox platforms. I think Xbox Live was
Dude,
always.
it was streamlined. That's why. Because like, did you ever play PS2 online? Did you have the big
I did.
adapter
I played
thing?
Killzone online. I
No
did.
shit.
No, no.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's cool.
I played Killzone online, and there was just empty, and I didn't play against anyone, and I
Yeah.
never went back.
Dude, the experience sucked. Like you had to basically be in the low level boot settings and configuration settings of your PlayStation 2. Like in order
Huh.
to do that, right? You had to like press and hold the reset button for 10 seconds or whatever and like pull up
Mhm.
the boot menu or the DOS menu, whatever it was. Um yeah, and you have to go through all these configurations and it was such a nightmare. So like I remember I played Area 51 and Time Splitters Future Perfect online.
Uh-huh.
I actually made and uploaded maps on Time Splitters, which is so sick.
Wow, that's adorable.
But the amount of effort I had to undergo to do that was just astronomical, right? Xbox
Wow.
is just
Yeah, I
like,
have.
okay, plug in your Ethernet cable or hook it up to Wi-Fi and like you're good to go.
Mhm.
And the 360
Yeah, I
only
mean,
made that easier.
Xbox was a little later to the game, right? But they came out swinging with that online functionality. They were totally
Mhm.
foreseeing, and it's coming from Microsoft. It makes sense. Like you and I were both playing online on PC this whole time, and Xbox is essentially a Windows machine. Like,
Yeah.
it's Xbox because it's DirectX machine, so it is essentially just running some kind of Windows on there or whatever.
Hmm.
And so yeah, online was a no-brainer, and it totally paid off. Like I honestly think that like the momentum from that console and 360 is kind of what got Xbox to this point.
Oh,
Kind
yeah,
of just
no
like
doubt.
gave them a slope to just roll down. At this point, it's a little tricky to talk about Xbox stuff.
Mm.
But anyway, yeah, that very cool. Never had that online experience until I got the PS3, which was a fine online experience. I had some fun times, but
Yeah.
I was already playing Counter Strike and stuff and whatever else on online, RuneScape and stuff on PC the whole way through.
Yeah. Yeah, I was definitely still more on PC until I moved around a lot and my PC I ended up not upgrading, so it just continued to remain in pretty poor quality. I basically like just parted out my computer from 2009, 2010 all the way up until like 2016 when I got rid of it.
Mm.
And then when I was at Duel, the first esports company I was with, they hooked me up with a newer end laptop so I could run like Fallout 4 on medium settings. Was kind of where I was at. Basically had that for a
Wait,
few
what
years.
year was that?
That was 2016.
That Okay, so it was post college. I see.
Yeah, post college.
So you didn't have a computer before then?
Um,
Like when did you get rid of your PC?
I mean, I'd always had computers in some
When we went to a tech
form.
school. You must have had a computer while we were there.
Yeah, I did. It was a massive piece of shit though. Like
Okay.
I didn't have a great PC up until like 7 months ago.
Okay.
My entire life. They've all been
Wow.
like fine, right? Like adequate,
little,
but
little Oliver Twist here.
not real. Whatever. I'd never ran a game at max settings up until like 4 or 5 months ago, I think.
Wow. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I've always been pretty reserved as well, but I've even in high school I had a pretty decent computer. I think even when I had a PS3 here before college, I had a PC the whole time, and I was
Mhm.
upgrading that. I was playing BioShock and newer games on there. When I went to college, I brought my PS3, and I had the PS3 until it bricked because I was playing like Dark Souls or
Mhm.
Demon Souls on it, and it bricked when I was playing Demon Souls, and I got a new PS3.
Dang, you had a
But
PS3
I think
brick.
I started.
They were reliable consoles.
I had a chubby one. Like I had the original chubby one.
Oh, the
and
OG,
then we went,
the backwards compatible
Yeah.
one.
Yep, but it bricked
Oh.
somehow. Something broke, and then I gave it to one of our friends from college, and they went and dissected it in one of the hardware labs
Yeah.
or whatever at the school. And he was trying to like fish out the Blu-ray reader or whatever, like the diode that was in there, because I guess
Mhm.
you could sell it or something. I have no idea. So I basically gave it to a pack of hyenas, and they ripped it apart. And since then, I've been kind of just on PC. It's just been so much more convenient, with Steam. Steam got really, really like I've always had Steam since because I got the orange box, I think, originally with Team Fortress and Counter Strike,
Okay.
whatever,
Yeah.
and Half-Life 2. Like that was kind of where I jumped on Steam, like way back in the day. And when we were in college, like Steam was a no-brainer. It was essentially a new console. And since then, I've been able to just be on PC happily and healthily, just being on PC and not having a console to my name. And I've been fine with that. Sadly, I mean, I wish I had gotten a PS4 just to play The Last Guardian.
Oh yeah.
Because because I played Ico, I played Shadow of the Colossus, and it was just The Last Guardian was supposed to be on PS3. It just never was. And then it went to PS4, and I owe it to my past self to play that game at least.
Mm.
And we'll see about the fourth game, because I heard that there's a hint of a fourth game from that creator coming out.
Okay.
Yeah. There's been teases, yeah. But yeah,
I was just looking at my Steam account, and it says so. I actually got my Steam account before this, but I know it was a different handle. So I've probably been on Steam for like 20 years, but I'm at 18 years of service. April 8th,
Nice.
2006.
I
Yeah,
used
baby.
to have a little badge like that, but I deleted my old Steam account to get a new one.
Yeah, I did
So
that at
now
some point also.
I just wanted a fresh start. I was thinking about those monks who like make mandalas out of sand and then blow them away. And so I was like, I've
Steam
made this
account's a
giant
sand-
library of garbage. Yeah, and I just want to get rid of it and start fresh. And so I did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
I
dude.
don't
The
know. Maybe it doesn't make sense, but
no, that makes sense. That makes sense. The PS3 era lasted over 10 years for me because I didn't get a PS4 until 2020.
oh yeah, I think that's
which
like
I
the
think
case
is
for a
when
lot
the
of
PS5
people.
came out also.
I think people had the PS3 for a good long time. I think that had
Yeah.
a lot of legs as far as any console.
Yeah.
And it's weird now because we've had the PS5 for however long, for like 3 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like they're talking about PS6, like PlayStation
Yeah.
6 in the talks. And I'm just thinking like, I don't know, maybe it's just we're getting older, time's moving faster. But I feel like I remember, I'm sure if we looked at the numbers, it wouldn't be the case. But I just remember PS2 was just such a long staple in my life. And PS3 was even longer. To have these consoles coming out at the rate that they do come out is kind of alarming, especially because we've been on PC. The PC is just, I've had the PC forever. It's been the one thing. And like Steam, my Steam account's been the one thing. And so we don't have that rhythm of new console generations on a PC. We just have like a consistent flow of things.
Yeah.
And I guess I got comfortable with that. So it's kind of weird to hear about new consoles coming out still.
Dude, the
But yeah.
PS3. Okay, so the PlayStation 2 came out March 4, 2000. The PS1 did not come out that much longer before that, though. Let's see. 94.
Was it like
Oh, okay. I guess
95,
damn.
94?
I guess it was 6 years. Holy crap. PlayStation 3 was 2006. PlayStation 4 was 2013. Oh my god, I didn't get a PlayStation 4 until 7 years after it was released.
Yeah, so
And
it's a
then,
good long lifespan for the PS3, isn't it?
Yeah. PlayStation 5 came out probably 2020 then, right? Yeah, November 2020. So
Okay.
it's roughly 6-7 years for the life
Yeah, I
cycles of
guess
these consoles.
I guess
Yeah,
it's
so
just
we're
the
looking
time
at another
dilation.
3 years maybe for a new console, possibly.
Oh,
If it's the same
that
window.
seems too soon.
It does seem too soon, given where we're
But
at
at
now.
the same time, like consoles nowadays, like because I've been on PC and I remember I had this memory when we were talking about PS2 and stuff. It's like I was playing like for example Battlefront 1 and 2 on PS2,
Oh,
and my friend
Battlefront
we'd
2.
play
Oh my
together
gosh.
split screen. Yeah, we played this game split screen at my friend's house. Meanwhile, he'd be on his PC playing his PC version and like criticizing the graphics and stuff. And this was the first time I was ever like, oh yeah, like PC games are higher res and stuff. Like they look more crisp and stuff. That was like the first time I ever had that realization. Like, yeah, PC is another side of things that I could look at as well. Like the I don't know. I didn't necessarily think about it that much when I was a kid, but I remember that the PC presence, the Master Race presence, was always there since like the PS2 stuff. And then
Yeah.
when I finally got into it, it was like, yeah, of course, like PC is kind of like a no-brainer for me. Like it's so much easier to upgrade and cheaper, and there's more games on it for sure. Like there's all kinds of games. Maybe not exclusive like blockbusters, but still plenty of games on the PC.
Yeah, dude, I remember being in high school, and crossplay as an idea was starting to come out. I'm trying to remember what the name is of the first game that ever enabled crossplay or was like going to. It was, I think it was a knights, like a medieval combat game called Crusade something.
Like Crusader Kings?
I don't know. No, it was like '06, '07 maybe. And then I think Shadowrun might have been the first game that actually did PC 360 crossplay. I could be making this up.
Yeah, maybe we don't want to use affirmative. What do you call it?
Not
we don't know.
Yeah, it's not an assurance, but yeah, I do recall. I recall so crossplay being a discussion point. I know as an influence, besides money, for me to not get an Xbox 360. Like my friends had it, so I'd play with them, and I could. You still did that back in the day of that era. You would like go to friends' houses to play video games on a regular basis, you know? I don't know if that's common anymore. It seems
Yeah, that's like a new idea now, especially
now.
post pandemic.
Yeah, for
People
sure.
just play online together.
Yeah, but between all that and like the money and whatever, I'm just like, okay, well, all of these games are eventually going to become cross-platform because it would make sense for them to do that. And then sure enough, it took another 10 plus years for that idea to get some buy-in.
It's funny how like as we move into the future, consoles slowly but surely become more similar to PCs. And to the point where now we're seeing a lot of console exclusive just becoming PC games. And like the online functionality is similar to a PC. And like essentially at this point, when you buy a box that plays games on it, you're buying a physical storefront and that's it. That can have a connectivity to a certain like you're essentially buying a box that has Steam inside of it already installed.
Yeah, more or less.
Whereas like in the past, it was exclusives. It was totally like dependent on the hardware that things could run. Like the Dreamcast, there were things running on the Dreamcast that could never run on modern or consoles of that era on other consoles. So it was like a hardware limitation. And so slowly but surely, everyone's becoming like a PC gamer. Even to the point where they're playing with their headsets online, just playing shooters online, just like we used to play Counter-Strike when we were younger on our PCs.
Yeah, the thing is though, like I got a Switch Lite as a gift from Newzoo back in 2019, which is pretty cool.
Fun.
But it's a Lite, so it doesn't dock, right? So between that and the consoles, like I pretty much only have the games that I can play on those consoles. And I've gravitated away from playing those machines because Steam just continues to provide me with everything that I need for the most part out of my gaming experience. And if that only becomes more true over time, I think it's going to be really hard for consoles to figure out what it is they're doing that's different other than making software. And at that point, like, why do you even need the hardware unless you are going to have a strategy that's concerted and focused around really leaning into that, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned the Switch. I think Nintendo's totally all about the hardware for the most part, and their games are kind of like, you know, they're only playable on the hardware because it's so specific for the most part. Especially with like since the Wii came out, there's been specific like targets towards funky hardware, you know, like because the Wii U, and then the Switch is its own thing. I think we've spoken about this before in past episodes, but like I think the niches that we have now is Nintendo with their cool hardware. It kind of justifies the existence of it. PlayStation, they're always releasing like, you know, high demand games like performance wise, and so they need a console to run that stuff. And an Xbox has essentially no foothold in any of those spaces. Like you don't need any specific console to run an Xbox game, and you don't need and that's it. Like you can basically play any Xbox game, exclusive game on a PC anyway. And so yeah, I think the one that's going to fall off first, I think, is going to be the Xbox. It's probably going to just become a service like Steam is. It's going to become a storefront. I think PlayStation, you know, Sony's always been about the hardware. I think they're going to keep releasing these premium things that also do Blu-ray and whatever else that comes out in the future and being like a multimedia machine. And I think they're going to end up continuing on with that trend. And Nintendo as well has always been about the hardware. So that's my like juvenile description of my projection, my baseless projection, but that's what I think I see as like a trend happening.
I think
Xbox will be consumed.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Sony's really just shooting themselves in the foot over and over again, in my view.
Oh,
I,
I
I
don't know.
don't I don't think that's going to be sustainable for them long term unless
Oh,
their
you're talking about
next
like the big
machine.
AAA games?
Yeah, it's the games, it's the hardware. It's the
Mm.
PlayStation 5 not having a robust enough lineup to justify a a hefty purchase for players that are on the
Mm-hmm.
fence. It
I mean,
doesn't
I heard.
have. Go ahead.
I heard the new price for the Pro for the
Yeah,
PlayStation 5 Pro, and I didn't hear people making a big deal about it. I heard like, oh, it's too expensive, and that was it. I didn't hear like this fervor of like, no way, no one's gonna buy that. Oh, the 1%. Like, I didn't hear this conversation, and I think it can only indicate that it's worth it for for some people.
no,
Like, there's
I
value
think
there.
I disagree vehemently. I think they are going to have a severe market backlash. Oh wait, are you saying the PS5 Pro, right?
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that is it's not a death knell by any means. I think they are going to wildly miss the expectations they have for that console.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, it's like it runs basically the games at full resolution and stuff, and it just has better performance. And I totally see what you mean, where like they're shooting themselves in the foot as far as a marketing strategy that is unsustainable. Like, they're essentially banking on games getting more and more fancy, and their hardware getting more and more or more and more powerful, which is kind of like there's a cliff at the end of that road, you know? Like, there's no
Yeah,
way to sustain that. But if Xbox is out of the picture, it doesn't need to be that way. They
I
could
yeah, but
continue
Microsoft is
to just release Final
always
Fantasies and
Microsoft's not going to pull out of the gaming business because it's such a significant portion of their
no, not the
top line
gaming business,
revenue.
but the console business.
I mean, even then, like the consoles are still, I think 20. No, okay, never mind. I'm trying to recall how much they sold. I think the entire gaming division was like $13 billion or something. I don't remember how much consoles were out of that. Uh, but it can't
I don't
be
know.
insignificant if they're still doing it and they're still thinking about it and publicly speaking about like, yeah, hey, we're thinking about our next console. You know,
Yeah,
now
we'll see what
maybe,
happens.
yeah, maybe it's just a machine that ports into the cloud and the entire model for Xbox is, hey, pay $10 a month for access to one high end GPU, pay $20 a month
Hmm.
for, you know, access
That
to
could be
more
a thing.
games and a higher end machine, like that kind of thing.
I like how our conversation started off like rose tinted and nostalgic, and then as we get further and further to the present day, we get like more and more cynical about the industry and
Can
stuff,
we just go back
and
to
we
being
just end up.
kids playing games?
Yeah, I know. We end up talking about like market strategies and
I
bullshit
mean,
like this.
I don't know if it's not necessarily cynical, but I do think it's pragmatic that like something needs to change with the console model as a whole. It, it a complete direction shift needs to happen because right now
Yeah,
everything keeps veering off of that cliff that you're talking about, right?
yeah, yeah.
And Microsoft's like, we're gonna have an AI console. Like, the fuck, dude? Like, okay, so you're gonna have AI upscaling, like that already exists in these machines.
Hmm.
What are you gonna empower people to make their own games within the console? Like, are those even gonna be good experiences that anything people will
Oh,
want?
I didn't hear about that. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Is that going to be like Dreams, but a whole console is
yeah, I
games?
think it was more like what could it be, right? Because Microsoft has gone
Interesting.
out there talking about AI in relation to their hardware
Oh,
as
okay.
well.
Interesting.
Um,
I don't know. I'm
it's
not
not a sure thing. It's more of a tangential connection, but
right. It's hearsay.
yeah. Okay, here. Like if I was to try to future cast what is our next game console going to be, right? I think it is for me going to be some version of a Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Uh and if I were to want the software from Sony's ecosystem, from Microsoft's ecosystem, and from Nintendo's ecosystem, I would probably end up with whatever version of a Steam Deck they are also going to release. And I mean, obviously, Nintendo's done this already with the Switch, and they were the
Hmm.
progenitors, right? I think Sony and Microsoft are going to have to go back in the direction of handhelds that can do everything. It just makes too much sense to do it that way because the relevance of a dedicated machine to a specific portfolio of games, that relevance is dropping by the year. Microsoft's tried to get ahead of it with Game Pass, but the games aren't really delivering for that service to be
Yeah.
worth it. So like, what do those ecosystems look like between here are the games and here's the connection point with the game player? I don't know, dude. Like, why the fuck would it be a PlayStation 6 or an Xbox 7 or whatever? It just, I don't understand. Not even just the reason for its existence, but the selling point to an audience right now. They'd really have to do something new that made that value proposition make sense when you can get a low to mid end PC for like $200 more than that.
Yeah.
And a Steam Deck for even less. It's like,
I wonder if I'm actually kind of excited to see. I don't know, because I do see that trend as well. Just the handheld market, people like looking at that as more of a viable thing, and also acting more like a Steam Deck, where you have a host of different games streaming to it and whatever. It kind of makes me excited to. Are we going to see like a PSP again ever? Because I feel like that was one of those unfortunate casualties, like dying before its time. Really, like I feel like now more than ever is the time to bring back like a big screen PSP. And I honestly don't see Sony dropping the console, because it is a home media system. You hook it up to your big living room TV, unlike a little handheld, unlike a PC, which the screens are usually pretty small anyway. It's a sit down on your couch type of thing, and I think there's always going to be a market for that, and also like a couch co-op sort of experience. So if anything, I see them kind of doing a double thing. Like here's our PSP, which you can stream all the same games to, and then also our console, which can do 8K and also play Blu-ray and also like feed your dog and whatever else.
yeah.
Like just a living room media experience thing that you can hook up to the wall.
I'm not as convinced that a console will always be that staple for people, because you have a more computer literate generation that is starting to have this purchasing power, and they're also having kids, right? So in 20 years, I don't know that consoles will exist, man. Like, even if sure, there's probably going to be one more console generation for certain. Probably for certain. There will be one more console generation. Like, there's no doubt. But
I just don't think it's going to be a thing that like Sony is going to give up real quick.
I think there is a very good possibility it could be the last console generation. Like, of consoles the way that we think they are today, for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, with that stipulation.
I don't know, man. I think consumer behavior is changing enough to where like those knock-on effects are going to be significant enough that it would not make sense for there to be a traditional here's your home unit in what, 12, 13 years time, 14 years time, something like that.
Maybe, yeah. I guess I'm not in the console space enough to be able to say, but yeah, I could totally see it going either way. But I do always look forward to the new thing from Sony, like those benchmark things from Sony. Even though I do have a PC, I understand that I can have a really powerful PC right now if I wanted. Seeing what like the next Sony exclusive games are going to look like, there's a fervor there that I don't think is really present with a lot of other, especially like a PC launch. Like you don't get that with PC. And I think there's a lot of pivoting happening with the console space with these big publishers and producers of games. For example, like just doing home showcases, like the PlayStation, they do their streaming events and stuff.
Yeah.
That still drums up plenty of like interest and plenty of excitement. And that, to me, we're both older, so it's hard to say what the kids think. But I imagine seeing what a new IP is on an announcement video is going to be just as exciting. And the same goes for like, I don't think I've ever been more excited to see a new console than I was for when the PS5 was getting ready to launch. Like, I didn't even plan on buying it. I was just like, what are they going to drop? Like, what the heck is going to be?
Dude,
and then like just
that's
whole
exactly how I felt until it came out.
Until you saw it?
Yeah.
I saw it and I was just like, I got like nerdy little humiliating goosebumps. Like, watching that announcement, because I was like, they just went for it. They just sent this thing. It's ridiculous and it's beautiful and awful at the same time.
No, the console itself is sick, but like what it does, and that was the moment for me where I'm like, oh shit, we don't need these probably ever again. You
I
know?
didn't. I didn't even register that. I was so blown away by just like. But yeah, you're totally right. Like it is just a like a performance improvement over the last console, right? And it
Yeah,
does some extra
yeah,
things
totally,
here and
dude.
there.
Like Returnal
Um,
looks great, and Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart looks fantastic, and the new Spider-Man 2 looks amazing, and Senua's Blade, right? Hell Saga, is that?
yeah,
I'm probably
let's
messing
go with that.
whatever it's
Go
called,
with
right?
it.
Like fantastic looking games. Those all could have just been on PC, and it would have been no
But you wouldn't
different.
get force feedback.
I mean, whatever. Like the controller now works with the PC on some PlayStation
Oh,
games that
true,
are on
true.
PC, I
Yeah,
think. I
yeah.
just like the need, the case for a player to be like, yes, I'm going to spend $800 on that instead of $1,000 on a PC or $500 or $600 on a Steam Deck or whatever.
Hmm.
The math is just not math in the way that it used to.
It's not
And
good math.
with
It's
a
bad
more
math.
informed audience, I don't know, man. I do
Yeah.
think we still need Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo and everyone like making games because it's important for us to have that still sense of largeness that we kind of used to have that still
Hmm.
needs to exist for games. And
Yeah.
the platform holders are the ones that can really drive those conversations forward. But they also need to figure out something that would get me to jump from like, okay, yeah, I had my going back to the start of this conversation, like we were getting consoles on a fairly regular basis, and
Right.
then
You
I
got
got my
used to the trend.
PS4 in 2020, and it's like I will probably never get a PS5 because why would I do that? I'm not everyone, but my story is becoming more and more common, and I
Hmm.
see that
You know what's
only continuing to be the case unless something changes.
I was just thinking, just real quick. I don't want to dwell on it for too much longer. Um, Kids shouldn't be on the computer when they're younger. You know what I mean?
Okay,
So
yeah,
that might be a market that we're not thinking about. Like I wasn't thinking about that, but my sister, she has younger kids, and my cousins, they all have younger kids, and I don't believe that a kid who's under like 12 should be on the computer at all. Like they should just be on a safe little, like a console or something, playing their games there, and not have access to the World Wide Web, and not have access to viruses, and not have access to all these different things that the PC really. The PC is like there's too many points of input. There's too many like entry points for dangerous stuff. Like you can log into your mom's like accounting and screw up her bank, or like you need to be technically minded to just you interface with a computer. Whereas like a console, it's totally perfect for kids, ages 5 and up.
yeah. I mean, you could
Whereas like a
still
PC, I wouldn't. Huh?
consoles are still closed open ecosystems. Like you can still use a browser
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
on a
But
PlayStation
it's
or
not like
Xbox.
like a PC's a completely blank slate. You can do anything from point A. Like you can do anything. You can start making a game, or you can start looking at porn online. Like you can
Yeah.
do anything at point A. But on a console, point A is you select a game from library to play a game.
No,
You really have to stretch your legs to get somewhere dangerous on a console. So that could be just totally like the market is just younger kids, which I think is a big market. And that was just something that just popped in my head.
yeah,
Because
I
we're not
do.
all savvy. Like, not everyone knows how to use a computer anyway.
No, but that's increasingly
We all know how
changing,
to
and
use phones.
right,
Like I
right.
agree with phones, but like a PC, like I don't think many. I think more people use tablets than use PCs, and that's another more closed off ecosystem. Like a tablet, a computer, it's got a whole keyboard and it's all confusing. It has a mouse, and yeah,
Uh, I'm pretty sure there are far more PC users than tablet users, but mobile phone users there's probably more mobile phone users than
Mm.
PC.
I guess I would just
Um,
lump them in the same, like tablets and
yeah,
phones.
I don't know. And even as phones become more popular, maybe those become the next consoles, so to speak. But even then,
Ew.
like this all kind of comes back to this like Steam Deck adjacent form
Yeah.
factor, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As this
Could
middle
be.
ground where it
As
scales
someone
up
who
or it scales
needs
down.
as someone who needs reading glasses and stuff to not strain my eyes at my phone or not strain my eyes like reading a book or something, I don't look forward to, even though I was excited for a PSP, I'd be excited for a PSP. I couldn't actually use it because I wouldn't be able to look at it. So that's why I
Yeah.
need big screen. I need at least like my whatever, however big this computer screen is, if not bigger. like a big old TV that I could play a game on, a console on. So for me, like, it's a little sad to think about the future of game consoles being handhelds.
But
So
but if they're
I
these
don't know.
hybrid type devices, like you can have it both ways, you know. And the
Oh,
horsepower on those machines is only going to get better over time. And like
right.
maybe there's some hybrid handheld where it's like plug your handheld into this acceleration box by Microsoft, and your acceleration box can take on 4 additional GPUs, and you're basically just like overclocking
Hmm.
your handheld machine, something to that effect,
Yeah.
you know, while still
Yeah.
having access to your Steam library, like that. I mean, especially if Microsoft really wants to lead the way in this whole like games as a service thing, that's how you proliferate access to games. Is you get the horsepower, you get the form factor, and you get the library, all uh, all coalesced into the same place and the same experience.
Hmm.
That I could 100% see being the future. Not,
Yeah.
hey, we're
No,
going
the
to
future is
release a
totally.
$600 machine so that way you can play 4 games in 10
The
years.
future is definitely. It's definitely library, like
Mm-hmm.
the Netflix of gaming. That's the future for sure. I totally see that because you don't want to think about hardware when you're buying a game. I think console users especially, they don't want to think about the hardware if not it can run. They just want to get it. They like the peace of mind that the console just runs it. So yeah, if there's a handheld that streams games off of like a, you know, some server like at
Mm-hmm.
full graphics no matter what, like I think people are just going to be like, yeah, it plays the game. I don't have to think about it. I just press play like a movie and it just goes. Like
Yeah.
a movie, you don't think about the hardware or anything. So yeah, that could be the future.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah. Well, that was cozy and then got like sad at the end.
I don't know about sad. It's just I think
I
it's
guess I'm not that as optimistic.
like,
I
look,
like the
man,
consoles.
I am not currently a for the I guess I don't know. I didn't get the PS4 till 2020, right? But
Hmm.
even then, I have not purchased a new console and do not plan to for the first time in my life. Even if there's been
Yeah,
gaps, but like
I'm
that is
probably in the same boat
becoming
as
a
well.
much more common sentiment, right? So
Yeah.
your whole idea here of like talking about our journey with
I'm
games
telling
consoles,
here.
like this is kind of where it is. This is the natural gravitation point for it. Is like,
Yeah.
what
As a
is the
tear
next
rolls down my
console?
cheek.
You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're totally right. I'm in the same boat. Like I got my PC. I'm comfortable with Steam.
Hmm.
As much as I like the idea of eventually getting a PS4, that still makes me a retro gamer. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally. Anyway, that was fun. That was cool.
Hmm.
We're out of time, right? I'm just sorry. I'm trying to be the
Yes.
showrunner today. I wasn't actually looking at when we started.
No. Yes. Now we are. Now we're out of time. Out of
Cool.
time is in
So
like,
I guess
yeah. We can.
I want to sign us off.
Okay.
But before we sign off, I would like to say something that's kind of exciting that the listeners should listen to and get excited about,
Okay.
which is that we are officially on Patreon. And you can go to Patreon/storyplayers, right? Is that
So
the
exciting.
URL?
Patreon.com.
You can find it somehow. I trust you to be able to find it.
Patreon.com
Okay.
/story players.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for the save.
Oh,
I
you
didn't have
put
it
5
locked and
posts.
loaded.
Oh, buddy, you are so awesome, dude. Thank
Yeah,
you
I got
so
the episodes
much.
are up there. We got
This is
bonus episodes
amazing.
up there. It is amazing. We got awesome like proto story players episodes up there. I think there's 4 up there, and there's even a version of the 5th episode that is exclusive with bonus pre and post show content, which is just stuff that I decided to leave in and didn't cut out for the public episode. Go there, check it out. If you enjoyed this episode, if you enjoyed any of the episodes, tell a friend. It is a free podcast. Like, we're going to be releasing these episodes on Spotify and wherever else free. But there is a lot of benefits to becoming a supporter. One of those benefits being you support us, because it's actually quite a lot of work to make these happen, to edit them, put them up online, do the, social media presence and all that stuff. So go check that out. There's going to be a lot of bonuses for you guys if you end up becoming a patron. We're going to do polls, we're going to do questions, stuff like that, and of course the bonus episodes. So
Mhm.
rush over there. Consider supporting the story players. Just me and Zach, you know us. Yeah, check it out. I think that's worth just having a look-see and considering supporting. So yeah.
I agree. Plus
Yes, thank you, Zach. And yeah, so that is it. We have been the Story Players. I have been Winston Powell, otherwise known as Acorn Bringer. You can find out all about me on my social media pages at Acorn Bringer. Look up Of Love and Eternity, my game I'm still working on. Check all that stuff out. Zach, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at patreon.com/storyplayers.
Yes.
Or we're at Wildkind Creations, and we're actually going to be posting again soon, so I'm very excited about that because we're
Awesome.
Oh man, yeah, right. You and I have to talk about our game pivot sometime soon because that would be maybe next week.
Yeah.
We're doing some cool stuff, so excited to be sharing that shortly here.
Yeah. Keep on the lookout for that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're pretty easy to pin down online. If you just find Story Players Twitter, we're on Twitter now, by the way. If you find me at Acornbringer, you can probably find links to Zach there. Just click the links. Find the ats and click the links. It's easy.
Yep.
Yes. Anyway, so thank you very much for joining us. Until next time. I don't know what the official sign off is.